Madam Speaker.
Recording in progress.
There shall be a moment of silent of prayer of meditation. You may be seated. Thank you. Honorable members, in the interest of safety for all present in the chamber, please keep your masks on and sit in your designated area. I thank you. The only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the President. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose a supplementary question. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. This was done to facilitate participation of members who are connecting to the sitting through the virtual platform. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, amongst others, has been applied. If a member who is supposed to ask a supplementary question through the virtual platform is unable to do so due to technological difficulties, the party whip on duty will be allowed to ask the question on behalf of the member. When all the supplementary questions have been answered by the President, we will proceed to the next question on the question paper. The first question has been asked by the Honorable T.I. Luhwase. I'm informed that the President will be answering questions through the virtual platform. In terms of Rule 1429, there is no time limit for replies by the President. The first supplementary question. I now invite the President. Mr. President, you may now respond to the question.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, the task of nation building rests on the shoulders of all of us as South Africans. This is a commitment that we as South Africans made to each other when we adopted our democratic constitution 25 years ago, following a broad consultation process that so many South Africans participating in. The acts of violence and destruction that took place in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng in July of this year revealed many of the challenges that we still confront in building a united and cohesive society. Part of the work we must do is to critically examine the preparedness for and response of our security and law enforcement services to these types of unrest, particularly to this one. I have appointed an expert panel to investigate these issues, which will guide the measures that we need to take to prevent the recurrence of such events. Another critical part of the work that we must do is to address the social and economic factors that also contributed to the violence and destruction that we saw. A deeply disturbing aspect of the unrest was the emergence of racial tension in parts of eThekwini, particularly between African and Indian communities. This was occasioned by the terrible scenes of violence and several killings in and around the area of Phoenix. Our law enforcement agencies have made significant progress in arresting individuals alleged to have been involved in this violence, and the law must of necessity take its course. However, there is a broader task of addressing both underlying racial tensions that may have contributed to these events, and the further tensions that these events may have given rise to. I wish to acknowledge and welcome the efforts of the South African Human Rights Commission, which is investigating the causes and circumstances of the violence in Phoenix. Government supports the ongoing work by the religious fraternity and civil society in promoting racial integration and coexistence in some of the most affected areas. The Social Cohesion Advocates, which is a group of eminent persons and experts from all sectors of society, has been particularly active in this regard. The Social Cohesion Advocates were established following the 2012 National Social Cohesion and Nation Building Summit to assist government in fighting all forms of discrimination and promoting nation building. Working with the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, and in partnership with the relevant provincial departments, as well as local government, including civil society and affected communities, they have conducted numerous social cohesion engagements to ascertain the root causes for the discord that occurred and manifested itself in the violence and the killings that ensued, and also to suggest possible remedies. These engagements covered areas in KwaZulu-Natal such as Marion Hill, Umlazi, Umzinto, KwaMashu, Phoenix, Umkhumbane, Mobeni, Umzinyathi, KwaThoyana, Isipingo, Montclair, and Pietermaritzburg. Now, the district development models political champions that I appointed last year for the area, Deputy Ministers Nokawe Mafu and John Jeffrey, have also paid visits and have been doing quite a lot of work in the affected areas. And they have also been overseeing a number of public engagements in these areas and are working closely with the provincial leadership of government as well as political parties, with civil society. A number of social cohesion initiatives are also being undertaken. Madam Speaker, in these areas of eThekwini, as in all parts of the country, building social cohesion requires a concerted effort to overcome inequality and social deprivation. It also requires that we overcome the unequal material conditions that divide society along race, gender, and class lines. Now, these are fault lines that we must continuously work on to close these fault lines. We must build integrated communities, social infrastructure, and services for all. We need to ensure that young people have equal access to quality education, sporting and recreational facilities, social support and employment opportunities. That is why, as part of its response, the eThekwini Metro government is focused on various programs aimed at young people, including psychosocial support in schools, the food security program, youth employment initiatives, and the Unity Games that would focus on the communities of Phoenix, Kwamashu, Inanda, Tongat, and Newlands. The achievement of social cohesion and nation building is closely tied to the work we are undertaking to drive economic growth, create employment, and transform our economy. This is also the focus of many of the interventions, as well as initiatives and projects of the eThekwini District Development Model, such as the Metro's high-impact catalytic projects, which will enhance investor confidence and create jobs. We need to further accelerate the measures that we are undertaking as part of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan and significantly scale up interventions to create jobs and grow our economy. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable T.I. Lehwase through the virtual platform.
I am here, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you. Honorable President, yes, the achievement of social cohesion and nation building is closely tied to the work we are doing to drive to the economic growth, to create employment, and to transform the economy. Now, do we have a plan to speed up the economic rehabilitation and reconstruction, which was extremely affected by the events of both KZN and Gauteng? Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, Honorable Lehwase, a number of initiatives and interventions are underway to deal with the destruction and damage that ensued following the spate of acts of unrest. For starters, many of the companies that were affected, both retail as well as manufacturing, are now submitting their claims to the South African Reinsurance SASRIA company, and those have largely also been validated, and they are dealing with those, and those who are insured should be able to receive payment so that they can reconstruct their businesses. And even those that were not insured, as government, we have committed to assist as much as possible. Now, this is aimed at ensuring that we do reposition those businesses so that they can rise again from the ashes and provide the goods and services that they were providing to our communities. What was also most impressive is that communities around KwaZulu-Natal and indeed Gauteng as well were able to rise to the occasion to defend the businesses that had not been completely destroyed against those who were perpetrating these acts, but they were also able to rise to the occasion to clean up. I had occasion to visit both areas, and I found that community members were involved in cleaning up and restoring quite a number of the businesses that had been devastated with destruction. So much is happening, and it is good that it's happening in an integrated way, with government involved, businesses, business owners involved, as well as communities, and of course our law enforcement agencies as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I thank you, Mr. President. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition from the National Assembly Chamber.
Mr. President, in the July unrest, your police minister and the South African Police Service sat on their hands as hundreds of people lost their lives and thousands of people lost their livelihoods. Your government and your police minister allowed for a total disintegration of law and order. And you yourself have only visited KZN once for 2 hours since the unrest. Now, you want to talk about social cohesion, but it is your police minister who is out there fanning the flames of racial tension and directing the blame at Indian South Africans only. 19 black South Africans lost their lives in Ananda, but Minister Clele doesn't care about them because they don't allow him to scapegoat and stereotype the Indian community of Phoenix. And you have done nothing, and you've said nothing to call him out in it. So, Mr. President, will you today condemn your police minister, who has spent every single day since the unrest scapegoating and stereotyping the Indian minority in Phoenix, when in fact the real blame lies squarely on his own shoulders?
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I took time to visit KwaZulu-Natal, and during the course of my visit, there were quite a number of areas that required me to go to, but I could not, with the limited time available, visit all of them. And I visited certain of the areas where I met with members of the community, as I said earlier, where I also met with members of the security forces, who explained to me in some great detail what had ensued. During that visit, I was accompanied by Minister of Police and the then Minister of Defense and the then Minister of Intelligence. They accompanied me throughout the trip. The Minister of Police, Mr. Bele, was meant to go to Phoenix, but he interrupted his visit to that area to meet me and explain a great deal of detail about what had ensued. I know for a fact that Minister Clele has visited the Phoenix area and the surrounding areas on a number of occasions. And I know for a fact that he has been engaging with community leaders, African community leaders, as well as Indian community leaders. And he has been engaging with all of them with a view of ensuring that the tensions that had erupted between the two communities are quietened down. And he has really done admirable work. And this work has also been taken forward, as I was saying, by Deputy Ministers Mafu, as well as Deputy Minister Jeffrey. They've been working in concert, and I'm not aware of any acts that Minister Clele has been involved in increasing or fanning rather the flames of tension or racial discord in the area. On the contrary, he is the one person who's been seeking to unite the two communities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you,
What planet are you on?
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable...
Point of order,
Pe-
Speaker.
Yes.
Member Evelyn Wilson just opened the mic without you allowing her to speak and made a derogatory remark on the platform. This violation of hybrid rules, we agreed that it should be stopped because it disrupts the House.
I thank you, Honorable Papo, and I've noted the comment. The third supplementary question...
Madam
will be-
Speaker.
Yes, Honorable...
Madam Speaker, I rise on Rule 140, and can I get assurance from you that the President is alone in that room? Because it certainly looks to me like he is being coached by somebody in that room, which I think would be a violation of the rules of Parliament. I think it's only fair, if he's not going to come to Parliament, that he faces the same interrogation that he would face if he was here in person. And if there are other people in that room that are assisting him with the answers, I would submit it's a violation of the rules.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Chief Whip, please take your seat. From what I have seen, the President seems to be alone on the screen. If there's anyone, yes, on the screen, he appears to be on his own. I thank you. Honorable Chief Whip, yes? Of the majority party.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we cannot allow insinuation and undermining of the intellect of the President. This has started somewhere, and we decided not to respond to Honorable Mazoni. But now this matter is brought here. They must bring evidence, because now they are undermining the President. The President is alone. We know the rules, and we cannot allow the leader of DA to come and make mockery out of the President.
Thank you very much.
I rise on a point of order, Madam Speaker.
What is the point of order, Honorable Member?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I do things in the correct manner, and I raise these issues on forums where they should be raised, like in the Chief Whip's Forum. And I am perfectly in my right during the Chief Whip's Forum, which is a closed meeting of Chief Whips, to raise my concerns. So it is an insult to my integrity and to my intelligence to have the Chief Whip of the ANC, who does not understand the rules of Parliament, to stand up and say that yet again the DA is casting aspersions. The fact of the matter is, when I raised this issue in the Chief Whip's Forum, Madam Speaker, I mentioned that you could see the shadows of people walking in front of the President. Now, there are certain issues that cannot be ignored. The one big issue is that the counsel to the President, Mr. Koornoff, is not in the House. Now, we would like to know why that is the case, because it's just coincidental that the counsel to the Deputy President is always in the House, especially when the Deputy President is in the House. It is a valid question, it is a rule in our rules book, and it is absolutely within the right of privilege for the Leader of the Opposition to ask for assurance.
Honorable Member.
To ask for the assurance that the President is by himself and not being coached.
Honorable Mazoni. I'm not going to allow you, Honorable Papo. This is an opportunity. Please, Honorable Members. Now, this is an opportunity for South Africans today to listen to what the Honorable President has to say to South Africans. And I want to make a plea to all of you that let us be adults, let us conduct ourselves with dignity, and allow for, I'm not going to allow you, Honorable Khatebe, allow me now to proceed and invite Honorable Groenewald. This is not an opportunity for a debate amongst ourselves. It's an opportunity for the President to address the nation on these matters in the question papers. I thank you, honorable members, and I now invite Honorable Groenewald through the virtual platform. That is a third supplementary question.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable President, the question refers to the underlying racial tension that occurred in KZN. I want to say the following. If you have a newspaper that advertised that the eThekwini municipality will have an auction of vehicles, but Indians are not allowed, that is an underlying racial tension. If we say we have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but we start prosecuting people who were involved, then we're not talking about reconciliation, we talk about revenge. Honorable President, are you willing to take the initiative that we start a CODESA 2 so that we can give meaning to the preamble of our Constitution when we say South Africa belongs to all who live in it, and that we are united in our diversity? And you may use your assistants if you need them to answer the question. Thank you.
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, Madam Speaker, and Honorable Groenewald. Thank you for offering that I should use assistance. I can tell you with great certainty, I don't need any assistance to answer your question, nor any question indeed. And the suggestion that I am coached is actually quite demeaning, and it just shows and demonstrates the extent to which the leader of the opposition has lost it in trying to gain brownie points publicly. He casts aspersions. I don't need coaching. I know my work, and I do my work diligently on behalf of the people of our country. And of course, like any other leader, we all have a number of people who stand in assistance of all of us, including himself. He has people who assist him in one shape, form, or other. But in answering your questions, Honorable Groenewald, I don't need any coaching. If I do need coaching, I'll probably come and get you. Maybe I can coach you, and maybe you can offer advice on one or two other issues. Now, coming to your question, I am not aware of the advert that you refer to by the Metro government in eThekwini, and the issues about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. That is a process that was public, and the processes that are ensuing would be found in the report that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission submitted to all of us. Now, coming to the issue of whether I would be agreeable to a CODESA 2, I would say, Honorable Groenewald, I don't think we need a CODESA 2. All of us as South Africans have a responsibility on a continuous basis to ensure that we do close the fault lines that exist in our society. Fault lines such as race, gender, areas of origin, whether it's regional or whatever, as well as class. Those are issues that we need to address on an ongoing basis and whittle down those differences that give rise to tension and make sure that, yes, we live up to the principles that are enunciated in our Constitution's principles. Our Constitution is a contract that we all entered into as South Africans. And that preamble possibly is the most beautiful preamble that you can ever find in any constitution. It speaks to the values, to the principles that should bind us together as South Africans. Now, I would say, rather than establishing another process of a CODESA 2, we just need to embrace those values as South Africans and live them and make sure that we lessen the racial tensions in our country, in what we say, in what we do. We also address the class differences that exist in our society in everything that we do. And we also address the gender challenges that we face as a country, where patriarchy is still the order of the day in our society. And if we can live all those values as South Africans, then we lessen racial tensions. Then we give the respect that is due to the women of our country. And we address the inequality and the poverty that continues to prevail in our society. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable MGE Hendricks from the National Assembly here.
Your Excellency, when you last responded to me in this House, you said you will cheer for me. I now ask for your support for my private member's bill to register Muslim marriages, which you said during Ramadan you are ready to sign. Since that response, your lady front benches also cheer for me. Signing the bill into an act will help ward off protests by Muslim wives. On a more serious note, Your Excellency, Al Jamaah's response to the unrest is that you take a bold step for full employment in South Africa. Will you also take another bold step and ask the Minister of Justice to send the report on our application for parole for former President Zuma? Will you take into account that this will ward off future unrest? And with regard to criminal charges against Mr. Zuma, are you prepared to support an African way, warding off potential further unrest and conspiring against you? As many claim Ubuntu
Time
is
up,
dead.
honorable members.
Thank you very much.
The Honorable, the President.
Honorable Speaker, the issue of the Muslim marriages is a matter that is under consideration and is being dealt with as we speak. And I'd like the honorable member to be patient because that matter is being dealt with. The issue that has to deal with processes around former President Zuma, all those issues are being dealt with in accordance with the precepts of our laws and legal processes. And I think they are in good hands in that regard. And those processes should proceed as they are due to do so in terms of all the legal laws that we have and the regulations. I now lose sight of the other issue that Honorable Hendricks raised. If you could remind me, Honorable Speaker, it was on my lips.
Honorable Hendricks.
Honorable Speaker, I spoke and I was going to go into what the President is going to do to strengthen Ubuntu, but we asked for an African way to deal with matters that are in the courts to ward off potential unrest and conspiring against our President.
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It did come back to mind. Honorable Hendricks did mention the issue of full employment, which I had wanted to also respond to. But in relation to the issue of Ubuntu, relating to the various issues that Honorable former President Zuma is facing, I did respond to that various legal processes are underway and they need to be given the space to unfold because we have good laws that can enable matters such as these to be handled in the way that they should be handled. In relation to the earlier question that had slipped my mind about full employment, I recognize the issue that and I appreciate the issue that Honorable Hendricks is raising. Indeed, unemployment is possibly the biggest challenge that our country is facing right now. With the high levels of unemployment, whether the restricted calculation or the expanded calculation, it basically means that we've got millions of South Africans who are able-bodied, who should be working, but are not working at present. This is a question that is top of mind for me as President, and I'm giving very, very close attention to this matter, and we will be putting forward a number of proposals in the short coming period about what we should do and what we should do collectively as the nation, so that we get to grips with how we are going to address the issue of unemployment. I should add that this matter also enjoyed center stage when I was involved in the International Labour Organization Commission with the Prime Minister of Sweden, when we led the process of looking at the future of work and how best we can, as the world and as countries, ensure that the people in our own countries do get to work. And I believe that that process and that Commission's work stands us in good stead to be able to address the challenges of unemployment in our country. So just to assure you, Honorable Hendricks, this issue is top of mind as far as I'm concerned as President. But thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
I thank you, Mr. President. We now proceed to question number 8, and question number 8 has been asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition. Mr. President.
Madam Speaker and honorable members, the administration that I lead as President came into office on the basis of a clear and decisive electoral mandate. It was a mandate to transform the economy, to advance social transformation, build safer communities, fight corruption, strengthen governance and public institutions, and build national unity and embrace our diversity as the people of South Africa. I appoint ministers from amongst the members of the National Assembly, and the Constitution also allows me to choose 2 other people who may not be members of the Assembly, who collectively and individually have the understanding, the ability and the commitment to implement the electoral mandate for which the party I lead was elected for. In areas requiring particular expertise, I appoint ministers on the basis of their knowledge and skills. I also look at the experience a person has and the experience that they have had that will enable them to drive the policy direction of the government. I consider also their capacity to adapt and understand the portfolio that they will lead. But I also look at their ability to work with various social partners to achieve the electoral mandate, to provide greater accountability and transparency. I have signed performance agreements with all ministers as well as deputy ministers, which outlines in detail their responsibilities and tasks. These performance agreements assist in assessing progress in the implementation of government's programs and inform any changes that need to be made to the executive. Even under the extraordinary circumstances caused by the coronavirus pandemic, which has caused massive economic and social disruption, this collective has made important progress in the implementation of its electoral mandate. This cabinet is determined to continue to work alongside all South Africans to overcome the effect of the coronavirus pandemic, to rebuild our economy, to restore society, and to fulfill the mandate that it was given. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition from the chamber here.
Mr. President, you say I've lost it, but given the fact that you can't pay your staff salaries and you can't submit candidates for an election, I would venture to say that you, sir, are the one that has lost it. Mr. President, we could speak all day about any one of the compromised candidates that you shuffled around recently, but I want to ask you particularly about a member of your cabinet, Mr. Didi Mabuza, your Deputy President and the leader of government business in this House, who certainly doesn't meet any of the criteria which you've set out for us so eloquently in the House today. In fact, you put him in charge of leading the coronavirus response, and yet he's been completely AWOL during the whole time of the pandemic. We also know that he's been completely missing in action during the crisis. He's also recently been out of the country for 6 full weeks, apparently for a routine medical checkup in Russia. What a vote of confidence in the South African healthcare system and your plans for NHI in South Africa. Mr. President, I don't know how you keep justifying keeping him in your cabinet, but the question I want to ask you today is, can you give this House and South Africans a categoric assurance that not 1 cent of public money was spent on his travel, his accommodation, his security, and any other expense relating to that trip to Russia? Thank you.
Mr. President.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. I take it that the Honorable Steenhuisen is entitled to get into tirades and make statements about various members of the National Assembly. But in relation to the Deputy President, Mr. Steenhuisen, some measure of kindness is required when somebody is not well. Deputy President was not well for quite some time, and this I know because I got involved in granting him leave so that his health can be restored. He had to take time off because he was not well. When somebody is not well, to be subjected to the types of attacks that Honorable Steenhuisen is subjecting the Deputy President to, I find that not only unkind, but I find that quite terrible, really, because we're talking about somebody who was not well. Where he gets his treatment, in the end, Honorable Steenhuisen, is a personal choice. Just as anyone would choose which doctor should treat them, which dentist should treat them, they're entitled because it affects them personally, and they need to feel that they can get whatever treatment best from whatever medical practitioner. As regards whether the government did pay a cent or whatever, as Deputy President, the Deputy President is entitled, one, to security, wherever he is, including the President. And this we don't choose. We don't choose to be continuously shadowed by security people. It is a requirement because it is taken that when we are in positions that we are in, we've almost become state property. And some of us would subject ourselves involuntarily, but it is what comes with the job. So wherever the Deputy President goes, wherever the President goes, they have to have security. They have security, whether they are awake or asleep. The other issue is wherever the President or the Deputy President goes at any given time, their transportation is the responsibility. It is the responsibility underlying of the government. It's the responsibility, as when they fly, it is the responsibility of the Air Force. As they travel on the ground, it is the responsibility of the police, the Presidential Protection Unit. And this is what comes with the job. I would often prefer that I should drive myself. But I can't. I'm told that I cannot easily sit behind a steering wheel and drive myself. Sometimes I sneak it, but I am always reprimanded. So it is that type of responsibility that is given by being in the positions that we are. So I would appeal once again to Mr. Ian Hazen that because the Deputy President occupies the position that he does on behalf of our nation, some measure of kindness when he is not well is called for. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Now, Mr. Makosini, Honorable Makosini, will you mute, please? Thank you. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable X Ngola from the Chamber.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable President, yes, indeed, Section 91, subsection 2 of the Constitution empowers you to appoint the Deputy President and the Cabinet, but it further obligates you to assign them powers and functions. Now, in assigning those powers and functions, do you perhaps take into consideration the interests, the needs, and the aspirations of our people in the country? Madam Speaker, furthermore, please help us remind Mr. Steenhuisen that we are not on ideals here. If he has nothing to ask here, he must just sit down and not grandstand. We are not speaking about a shadow cabinet. We are talking real stuff here. Thank you very much.
The Honorable, the President.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, on a point of order. I didn't know that we had sworn George Benson into the Parliament.
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I did not immediately decipher a question, but in terms of just commenting on what the Honorable Member said, I would confirm that yes, the Constitution gives powers to the President to appoint people to the Cabinet, including the Deputy President, and it also gives powers to the President to assign them tasks in various departments of government and also in special tasks and responsibilities to execute on behalf of the people of South Africa, which is precisely what I have done in a number of areas to the Deputy President and indeed to other ministers as well.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable OMC Mautwe through the virtual platform.
Speaker, I would take the question on behalf of Honorable Mautwe. Mr. President, you rightfully removed Zweli Mkhize from your cabinet after allegations were made that he corruptly gave a contract worth millions to his buddies. If you are indeed serious about corruption and your approach to eliminating corruption is not fractional, why have you kept Minister Mantashe in your cabinet, despite revelations that he illicitly benefited from Musasa? And why is Zizikotwa still a deputy minister, despite revelations at the Zondo Commission that he is also a beneficiary of corruption?
Point of order. Honorable Khatebe.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I'm rising on Rule 85. The member knows very well that when he has to deal with the character or integrity of any members of the House, he must bring it through the substantive motion. Thank you.
I thank you, Honorable Khatebe. Honorable Mautwe, you were left with 22 seconds. Okay, Honorable Mautwe is gone.
We have asked the question, Speaker. We are waiting for the response of the President. Thank you very much.
I thank you. The Honorable Mr. President.
Honorable Speaker, the question and issue that has been raised around Minister Gwede Mantashe in relation to the issues of SASA have been dealt with at the commission, the State Capture Commission, have been fully explained and fully articulated by none other than the minister himself. And he explained the circumstances around the issues that the honorable member has raised. In relation to Deputy Minister Zizi Kodwa, the same thing happened. He did get occasion to go to the commission and answered the various questions that have to do with matters like that. So the various answers that they have given are such that they, in my view, were straightforward and gave full answers to the issues that may well have arisen even publicly. In relation to the issue he raised about Honorable Dr. Mkhize, Dr. Mkhize resigned from cabinet and accepted his resignation. And we have moved on. And I think the matter is best left where it is. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, Honorable Mondli.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wouldn't have intended to enter it in this fashion. I think the order by Honorable Hadebe stands.
Yes.
I would have requested Honorable Speaker to rule on that. Because that question says, go back to the rules. If you want to raise a question that casts aspersions on one's character, you must follow the process of a substantive motion. It's our humble request that the Speaker rules on that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Mondli. Honorable Hadebe.
Speaker.
Presented
Speaker.
to us, yes? No, just a minute, please. Just hold on.
Okay.
And Honorable Hadebe, rightly so, presented that if a member wants to raise the kind of issue which has been raised by the Honorable Mautwe, that the member should submit a substantive motion. And therefore, the member is being cautioned that if you wish to pursue that issue, you submit a substantive motion. I thank you. On that matter, we now proceed, and I allow the last supplementary question, which will be asked by the Honorable Hlengwa. Honorable Hlengwa will do this through the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, in response to the first question, you cited Guatoyana, and I'm from there. We have never seen the people or the ministerial or deputy ministerial delegation that you are referring to coming to our area. So that would be great if they could actually see through to what you are saying. Mr. President, on the question at hand, yes, it is your prerogative, but prerogative in the absence of accountability and transparency lacks integrity. You were elected on the basis of the so-called New Dawn, righting the wrongs of the past, as it were, and the so-called 9 wasted years. What we saw in those years were cabinet reshuffles and cabinet recycles in the absence of transparency, explanation, and an inability to take the country into confidence. So, Mr. President, in order to legitimize your decisions and to take the country into confidence, why haven't you explained succinctly every cabinet change that you have made vis-a-vis the contracts that you have signed? There are ministers who have been recycled or reshuffled 5 times and 9 times. Mr. President, give credence to the New Dawn and be transparent.
Remember, please. Honorable Hlengwa, and I want to make a plea to all members. If your time is up, I may allow you a second or two. But once I say it is up, and I repeat myself, I expect you to abide, and I expect you to respect the House.
Ngiyaxolisa ma, shuthi angikuzwanga ngiyaxolisa kakhulu Msomlomo.
Thank you
Ngehlela
very much.
ngezantsi mfundisi.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Mr. President, Honorable Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Hlengwa, the Constitution, as I said earlier, empowers and also authorizes the President to appoint persons who are members of the National Assembly and also two non-members to the cabinet of the country. And in doing so, the President does not need to give any explanation to the affected persons why they have been appointed, and if they are to be removed, why they are removed. And indeed, the construct of our democracy is such that it empowers the President to take that decision. It's a prerogative that the President has. And this happens all over the world. The President is given that authority and that prerogative. And the President alone exercises that authority. And in doing so, as we drafted our Constitution, the nation invested confidence and trust in the President to be able to take the right decisions. And sometimes they may not be seen to be right by people, and of course, a whole debate will ensue around that. What I have sought to do is to, having appointed individuals to the cabinet, I have sat down with them and entered into agreements with those people. The Deputy President and I evaluate the people once they are appointed. The President alone having taken the decision, we then sit down together with the incumbents and have discussions around the types of tasks that we want them to execute and enter into an agreement, which agreements have now been published. And when any of the individuals is removed, they are also not given any reasons by the President, because the President, having the authority and the prerogative to appoint and to remove or dismiss members of the cabinet, does so for reasons that he or herself has. And that is where it starts and ends. And as regards the transparency and accountability that Honorable Hlengwa seeks, that should ensue as the work gets done. And where the work is not done properly, there will be accountability. And there will also be transparency with regard to what they have signed on for and the tasks that they've been given to execute. Now, in the end, it is up to all of us, as the public, as citizens of this country, to evaluate whether members of the executive are doing the work as well as is set out in their agreement. And in the end, it is my evaluation, together with the Deputy President, that really in the end will be the one that determines what needs to be done. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. We now proceed. On the order paper, question 9 has been asked by the Honorable KRJ Mishwe. Mr. President.
Honorable Speaker and honorable members, since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic in our country in March of last year, more than 82,000 people are known to have succumbed to the disease in our country, and nearly 2.8 million people are known to have been infected. This virus has caused massive damage to the economy. It has disrupted education and increased levels of poverty and unemployment. When combined with other preventative measures, such as mask wearing and social distancing, the COVID-19 vaccine is the most effective instrument that we have to prevent deaths, reduce infections, and restore the economic and social life of our country. Evidence shows that COVID-19 vaccines reduce the chances of severe disease, hospitalization, and death. Madam Speaker, as I said in February of this year, no one should be forced to be vaccinated. Instead, we need to use the available scientific evidence to encourage people to be vaccinated, to protect themselves, but also to protect people around them. At the same time, our occupational health and safety laws require that we ensure a safe working environment. This situation poses challenges for employers who want to keep their workers safe from COVID-19 while respecting the rights of those who don't want to be vaccinated. On the 11th of June this year, the Department of Employment and Labor issued consolidated directions on occupational health and safety measures in terms of the disaster management regulations. The directions provide guidelines for employers that intend to make vaccination mandatory. Such employers need to determine the category of employees to be vaccinated, taking into account the vulnerability of employees owing to age or any comorbidities that they may have, as well as the risks that are posed as a result of the role of the employee, that the work that they do. The implementation of any mandatory vaccination policies must in the end be based on mutual respect, which is the respect of the rights of the people, which achieves a balance between public health imperatives, the constitutional rights of employees, and the efficient operation of the employer's business. Now, that is quite a delicate balance that needs to be struck. Employees may refuse vaccination on medical or constitutional grounds. In such instances, the employer should cancel the employee and, if requested, allow them to seek guidance from a health and safety representative or a worker representative or trade union official, as well as a health practitioner. If necessary, steps should be taken to responsibly accommodate the employee in a position that does not require the employee to be vaccinated. And it could range from either the employee can continue to work at home without contact with others or customers or suppliers or whoever, or to be placed in an area where they are able not to interface with others to spread a virus. On the question of tenants being forced to take vaccines or risk losing their accommodation, like any other person, tenants have a right to decide whether they should be vaccinated or not. Getting vaccinated is not only a personal choice, Madam Speaker, about protecting yourself from infection. It is also about protecting others, including one's own family, friends, co-workers, and allowing the whole of society to return to normal activity more quickly. If we can vaccinate a large enough proportion of our population, particularly the adult population, by December, we can avoid another devastating wave of infections and restrictions on the economy. Those who refuse to be vaccinated are increasing the risks for all of us, not only of a further resurgence of infections, but of prolonged economic hardship and lack of recovery. We therefore all have a responsibility to encourage all South Africans over the age of 18 to go to their nearest vaccination site today, to protect themselves, to protect others, and to help all of us get our economy back on track. Above all, vaccines are free in our country, they are safe, and they are effective. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable K.R.J. Mishwe. Mr. Mishwe is here in the chamber.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Honorable President, for your reply. God, the Almighty, has given His people the right to choose. That is now being taken away through totalitarian governments around the world. A righteous and just God who wants all to be saved does not force His salvation on anyone. Yet, emerging dictators are trying to force people to receive vaccines they don't want to. This, we believe, is tyranny that must be resisted by the people of the world. Section 12, subsection 2C of the South African Constitution says, and I quote, "Everyone has the right to bodily and psychological integrity, which includes the right not to be subjected to medical or scientific experiments without their informed choices," close quote. My question to you, Mr. President, is whether you are willing to help prevent a new form of apartheid where unvaccinated people are being discriminated against and excluded from some places, and whether you are willing to defend the constitutional rights of South Africans whose choice is not to be vaccinated. The ACDP says no to a new form of apartheid based on proposed mandatory vaccination, which is against the South African Constitution that is held by many around the world. Just to remind members that one reason why the South African Constitution has been held all over the world is because of the right to choose that the South Africans have been given. Thank you.
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Mishwe is absolutely right. Our Constitution, as he says in Section 12.2.c, does give everyone in our country their rights in terms of their bodies and all that. The answer I gave to Honorable Mishwe's question earlier would address precisely this. And I have said nobody in the end should be compelled to be vaccinated. There are quite a number of companies that have now said that vaccination is mandatory, and they are also subjecting themselves to the directives that have been issued by the Department of Labor and Employment, and have said that yes, they recognize that their workers have their constitutional right, but they are also saying that they also have the responsibility to protect other workers against infection. In the end, Honorable Mishwe, you will also agree with me that the rights that are in our Constitution are not absolute rights. They are rights that have to be exercised with due consideration to how those rights affect the overall rights of all of us. When we imposed a lockdown in March of last year, we knew very well that we were curtailing the rights of movement, the right of assembly, of everyone in our country. And all of us agreed that that was the right thing to do, because we were safeguarding the population of our country against widespread infection. And as it turned out, it did prove empirically and otherwise to have been the right step to have taken. because we did at that stage level off the incidence of infections, and through that we saved many lives. I can say that many more South Africans would have died. And it was incumbent on the government to embark on this drastic action that led to the curtailment of the rights of all of us, starting with me as president and everyone else. Why did we do that? We did that to save lives. And similarly, the issue of vaccination or not vaccination has to be looked at in that context as well. We are saying vaccination has been proven, or vaccines have been proven to have a very positive effect in saving lives and reducing infection if it has set into anybody's body to a point where their lives will be saved. And it is for this reason that we are saying we would like to encourage everyone in our country to be vaccinated. And I do not buy into the notion that this is being done by authoritarian, dictatorial governments around the world to force people to be vaccinated. And if we do not take steps to encourage and get people to be vaccinated so that we can have what they call herd immunity, what I call population immunity, our health services could be overrun, and we've seen that whenever we had spikes in infections. And we've curtailed certain rights, including alcohol usage, movement, and all that. Recognizing that people have rights to be able to imbibe alcohol, to go wherever they want, but we curtail them for that moment and say it is important that we should save lives. Now, the directives that have been issued by the Department of Labor take into account a number of conditionalities, or set out a number of conditionalities. And these are very much in line with our constitutional architecture, that we've got to respect the rights of others, but at the same time, in ensuring that the rights of the entire population are also upheld, there are various steps that we need to take. And this is precisely what we are also saying to various companies, that if you should encounter a situation where certain workers don't want to be vaccinated, there are various steps that you need to take, respecting their rights, but also dealing with them in a humane manner, hoping that they will be encouraged in the end to be vaccinated so that they can save the lives of their own families as well as the lives of their co-workers. And this is the approach that is given rise by the constitutional architecture we have. It sets out rights, but those rights also have to be balanced with the rights of the overall community of South Africans. And in that balance, we would find that there's a good way forward to enable us to save the lives of our people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable ex-Harvard from the chamber.
Honorable President, despite vaccination not being mandatory, one of the challenges affecting the vaccination rollout is the slow uptake and the high vaccination hesitancy and risk. What is the government doing to allay the fears of the citizens and to positively encourage citizens to be inoculated in order for the nation to achieve population immunity? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Harvard, thank you very much for that question. I should say that, yes, there is hesitancy in our country in a few pockets of our community. And some of it, unfortunately, is also being encouraged and propelled by statements and positions that are articulated regrettably by people like Honorable Mishu. And this has a negative impact on the issue of vaccinations. Around the whole world, millions and millions of people are being vaccinated against COVID-19. And let's say that if one looks at it historically in our own lives, we've all been vaccinated. From a very young age, each one of us, we may not remember this, we've been vaccinated. Even before I was vaccinated for COVID-19, I had to be vaccinated for yellow fever. And I was told that my yellow fever certificate for previous vaccinations had expired, and if I wanted to travel to certain countries, particularly on our continent, I should have that. If not, then I should not bother. So vaccination is not a new thing to all of us. We've all been, even Honorable Mishu has been vaccinated. I can bet you my last rand. And so therefore, for me, it's bizarre. It is absolutely bizarre that when we are dealing with a pandemic that is killing people more directly in our eyes and faces, we should be encouraging people not to be vaccinated when it has been proven that vaccination does actually save lives. So there's doubt about vaccination, there's fears about vaccination that is being spread around. Some of it is fake news. Our responsibility as government, therefore, is to spread the positive message about vaccinations. And we are now embarking on a massive campaign for vaccination. I've been asked by my office to participate personally in this and encourage South Africans to be vaccinated. And I will, and will be speaking in all the languages of our country to encourage everyone in our country to vaccinate, because that is the only safeguard we have against COVID-19 as a killer disease. So we will be embarking on that, and we will make sure that the message spreads. But at the same time, I want to call on all of us as leaders, both political leaders, community leaders, sports leaders, religious leaders or leaders of the faith, business leaders, and everyone, to embark on a massive information drive about vaccinations. Employers, I've been so encouraged to hear a number of employers themselves saying that we are encouraging our workers to be vaccinated. I've been encouraged when I've heard leaders of the faith saying that, yes, they want to encourage, they are encouraging members of the faith to be vaccinated. We want to open more and more sites for vaccination, including, for instance, the sites of prayer, pension sites and all that, so that more and more of our people get vaccinated. It is an important campaign that we are involved in. So I want to discourage those who are talking against vaccination without real scientific evidence. We have scientific evidence that the vaccines work, but we have no scientific evidence that demonstrates that vaccination does not work or vaccines do not work. And in the absence of any, let us live up to being a nation that does things on the basis of science and on the basis of facts and knowledge. Other than that, we could be a nation that relies on rumor. on rumor that vaccines don't work. And I don't think, as South Africans, we want to be defined as a nation that just relies on rumors. We now have evidence that where vaccines and taking action against coronavirus, where it has happened, even on our own continent, has led to disastrous results, absolutely disastrous results, where many people have died unnecessarily. We have the science, and we have some of the best scientists in the world who are leading the charge, who are demonstrating to the world that they know what they are doing and they know what they are talking about, and they're being applauded at the World Health Organization level. They are advising us about vaccination. And I would that those leaders, like Reverend Mishwe, should desist from discouraging people from being vaccinated and claiming Bible verses that say people should not be forced. It is important that all of us
Point of order, Chair.
should be
Chair,
committed to
point of
saving
order.
lives.
Madam Speaker. On a point of order, Chair.
Thank you.
I'm raising a point of order from the House. Point of order, Chair.
Yes.
I'm raising a point of order from the House.
Yes,
Chair.
Honorable Swartz.
I would ask you to rule that it is not correct for the President to instruct our leader how he can express himself. He has the freedom of expression in this House and in public, and he has the choice as to on this issue as well. I didn't want to interrupt the President, but I'm concerned about the aspersions that are being made.
Honorable
Thank you,
Swartz,
Honorable.
you know that is not a point of order. It is not a
It
point
is.
of order. You may proceed, Mr. President.
Point of order, Chair. Order. Point of order, Chair.
Point of order, where are you? On the virtual
It's
platform?
Honorable. It's Honorable Thring on the virtual platform.
Yes.
Chair, you previously ruled when one of the members of the ANC correctly said that anyone who casts aspersions need to be brought to order by yourself. The President, Mr. Ramaphosa, has cast aspersions on the President of the ACDP by assuming that he is causing vaccine hesitancy.
No aspersions were cast here. Please take your seat.
He has, Chair.
Proceed. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Anne Chirwa through the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Speaker, sorry. President, the pace of vaccination is still painfully slow, if we are honest. And you speak on the issue of vaccine hesitancy, and we are all well aware that it is getting stronger and stronger. And this is largely as a result of the government's poor communication of the need for and efficacy of vaccines in preventing serious illnesses. The truth is, government hasn't immersed itself in ensuring that communication and education as primary tenets of primary healthcare and prevention are administered adequately. And it's sad that even over a year into this pandemic, we still speak of education and communication in the most vague of ways. I want to ask the President, what have been the tangible steps that have been taken to ensure that messages on communication and education on vaccination are tailor-made to fit communities as per their geographics, as per the age, as per the cultural background, as per religious background, and in fact, even to a point of gender, because even the country is well aware of the fact that even men are hesitant on vaccination on a higher level. How have you taken tangible steps in ensuring that communication and education are tailor-made for the communities and the people of South Africa, which we haven't seen happening in this country to date? Thank you, Speaker.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'd like to thank Honorable Chirwa for posing that question. And in a way, it's more than a question. It's actually more of advice and suggestions that she's putting forward, which I accept wholeheartedly. I agree that the pace of vaccinations has not been really living up to the objectives that I wanted. but many, many efforts are being made to ensure that we do hit the close on to 300,000 mark. It's been hovering around 250, 260, 270. I still want to see an increase in the level of vaccinations on a daily basis. So we need to up the tempo and the actual increase of numbers when it comes to that. So I thank Honorable Chiva for raising that. But I'd like to thank you, Honorable Chiva, also for having reflected on the communication part. The communication has been happening. You say I should give you the tangible steps. There are quite a number of initiatives that we have embarked upon, but I will be the first to admit that they are not enough. They are not sufficient, and you're raising the issue here on this platform of the National Assembly is sufficient to ensure that we increase the level of communication and tailor-make it, as you correctly say, in relation to the various groupings of our population, age, gender, as well as ensuring that we touch on all those groups that have doubts about vaccination. So we will be taking the advice that you've given. In fact, that has already been articulated, and I'd like to see us execute a number of suggestions that you've put forward. And I can hear that you are speaking very fervently about this, because I'm sure you have observed that there is a bit of a weakness, and we need to up the tempo. We need to do a lot more than what we are doing, and we will be doing so. And as I said earlier, I've also been roped in to participate personally in relation to the message that we need to beam to our people about vaccines. So thank you very much, Honorable Chiva. I really thank you for your suggestions in this regard. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable N. Singh through the virtual platform.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, I want to submit that words like encourage, mutual respect, really don't resonate with those that are anti-vaxxers. And we have to do more. We really have to do more than encourage and ask for mutual respect, Honorable President. It is, you know, I'm a law-abiding citizen, I'm a God-fearing man. But when legal people and religious people get involved in a debate which centers around human life, when one loses siblings and friends and relatives, you know, in front of you, young people, I mean, this debate should take another dimension, Honorable President. Honorable President, we speak about the Constitution and the rights. What about responsibilities? With every right, there is a responsibility of those who do not want to vaccinate to ensure that the majority of people that want to vaccinate are protected. You say, Honorable President, that some of them can stay home and work from home. That is not possible when it comes to frontline workers. You've got doctors, you've got nurses, you've got health workers, you've got policemen and women that want to go to work. Why should others, even patients, be at risk of those who are not vaccinated? Mr. President, we have to do more, and I'm appealing to you that we do more as government. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Singh, I speak to support you and agree with you about needing to do more. And the point that you raised, that everybody has a responsibility, particularly in relation to our rights. As we exercise our rights, which we are given by our Constitution, we also have to exercise responsibility to respect the rights of all other people. And we should not just expect that the Constitution gives me this right, and therefore in my activities, in my actions, in the way I lead my life, I can trash other people's rights. And that's the point that you are making, and we need to do much more. This is precisely what we are committed and determined to do, to make sure that as we exercise our rights as South Africans, we need to know that the rights of others also have to be respected. That if you have not taken steps to be vaccinated and to protect yourself, you are putting the lives of other people in danger. You are therefore violating the rights of other people. When there is great opportunity for yourself to be vaccinated so that you don't only protect yourself, but you protect the lives of others. And I will not be surprised in time to come where if one is known to have violated the rights of others, they could be sued. That you violated my personal rights by infecting me, as we have seen with HIV/AIDS, where people have either been charged or sued when knowingly they knew that they were infected with the virus and then went about spreading it. So within the framework of our Constitution, it is important for us as citizens to know that as we exercise our individual rights, we should not be selfish. Our actions should not be underpinned by selfishness and just seeking to advance our own personal rights. We should seek to be protecting and advancing the rights of others. And it is for that reason that I did speak out strongly. Others, particularly to what Reverend Misha was saying, others may think that I was casting aspersions on Reverend Misha. Far from it. I am talking to a principle. And of course, everybody has the right to articulate whatever position that they like. But in the end, it is the preservation of the lives of South Africans that we are talking about here. And this is what has made us as a government to take action. And let me say, as I conclude on this issue, the government has been taken to court numerous times by various interest groups, be it tobacco, be it alcohol, be it, you name it, sporting organizations. And the courts have always said that the government has the responsibility to safeguard the health rights of all South Africans. And the courts have always been very clear on this, that the regulations that we have set up in the National Disaster Act are aimed at advancing the interests and the lives of South Africans. So what we are saying, what I am articulating now, is aimed at achieving precisely that, saving the lives of all South Africans, which is the responsibility any government has. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. That brings us to the end of question 9. We now proceed with question number 10, which was asked by the Honorable I.K. Murolong. Honorable
Madam Speaker, honorable members, the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan is our blueprint for building a more inclusive, more equal, and a more resilient and faster growing economy. Since I last addressed this House, we've made significant progress in turning that blueprint into a reality. There's still quite a lot of work to be done, but we remain focused on a massive rollout of infrastructure, a targeted industrialization strategy to increase local production, an employment stimulus to create jobs and support livelihoods and the rapid expansion of our energy generation capacity. Madam Speaker, we are implementing a range of structural reforms to ensure that we all have a reliable power supply, cheaper data, abundant and clean water, and efficient running ports, as well as a good infrastructure on rail. 2 weeks ago, the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy published regulations to raise the licensing threshold for the embedded generation projects to 100 megawatts. This was like a defining development in the energy generation in our country. This will not only alleviate the immediate energy supply shortfall that we all know we have, but will lead to massive investment in new projects and stimulate growth. And it's been widely welcomed, not only in our country, but globally. The response has been hugely positive, as they saw that South Africa is serious about moving forward with the reforms that I had announced and former Minister of Finance, Minister Tito Mboweni, had also led in. It will provide certainty to investors that the current electricity challenges will be resolved, enabling them as investors to confidently invest in new factories, mines, and a whole number of other initiatives like data centers and what have you. 2 months ago, we announced that the National Ports Authority would be established as an independent subsidiary of Transnet, which will improve the efficiency of port operations and enable greater private investment in port infrastructure. Discussions between the Independent Communications Authority, ICASA, and various role players, our licensees, have been underway with the hope of reaching a settlement to enable the allocation of high-demand broadband spectrum. I'm told that later this month there will be further development with an effort of reaching agreement on this matter. And it is this, and I call on those who are part of this whole process, working together with Minister Kumbuzo Nchabeni and of course ICASA, to do everything they can to reach agreement. The further thrust and impetus of our economy is reliant on this step being taken, and I would call on the litigants to all seek a solution and be solution-oriented so that we can put this matter to bed and open up our economy for the growth that we so require. Significant work, Madam Speaker, is underway in a number of other reform areas, including in the water sector, in the visa regime, and this work will show results over the coming months. Alongside the reform agenda, we're implementing measures to support employment. The presidential employment stimulus has supported close to 700,000 job opportunities to date, and largely to young people. This is unprecedented in the history of our country, to have in such a short space of time opened up job opportunities to so many people. A further 11 billion has been allocated to continue the stimulus, that is the job stimulus, in the current financial year, and several programs will begin implementation in the coming weeks. This includes the continuation of the Basic Employment Initiative, which initiative has absorbed quite a number of young people in our many schools who have come in to assist our efforts not only to advance basic education, but also to deal with the pandemic, as well as to expand support for small-scale farmers and workers in early childhood development sector. Now, the violent unrest that occurred in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng in July dealt a further negative blow to our economic recovery. And we know that the impact by the counting that has occurred so far would amount to almost 50 billion rand to our GDP. To respond to the devastation and the suffering that the unrest caused, I announced a range of additional measures to provide relief to affected businesses as well as poor households. To support those who were left vulnerable by the pandemic and the unrest, we have reinstated the social relief of distress grant until March 2022. We are also providing support to businesses who were affected by the unrest through measures such as grant funding and additional support from the Unemployment Insurance Fund as businesses take time to reopen. We've also committed to back Sasria, our reinsurance state-owned company, to ensure that it is able to honor all valid claims in full. Now, we've had the employment tax incentive, which has worked extremely well, particularly in providing jobs for young people. And this has now been expanded for a period of 4 months, and the payment of pay as you earn and the excise taxes has been deferred to help businesses to recover. Now, these measures are funded primarily through additional revenue that we received as a result of the strong performance of our mining sector and other exports. Madam Speaker, the interventions that we have implemented have sustained millions of jobs. They've prevented the closure of a number of businesses and have provided relief to the most vulnerable in our society. And these run into millions. Just to give you an insight, thus far, close on to 12 million people have applied for the social relief grant. And SASA is in the process of paying out and processing all that. We still have a long way to go in our economic recovery. The statistics released for the second quarter of this year are a reminder of our unemployment crisis. And this is a major crisis. It is also a reminder of the extent of poverty in our country. While the interventions themselves contained in our reconstruction and recovery plan are necessary and significant, I will say now that they are not enough. The time has now come for us to assess how far we have come. Time has come for us to reflect on the choices that confront us as a nation. And the time has come for us to take bold steps and actions to achieve economic progress. That is the singular focus of my mission and the mission of this government. And we will be articulating this in time to come. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable I.K. Murolong from the Chamber.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, your unwavering commitment to the fight against poverty, inequality, and unemployment commands our collective respect. Public employment programs provide value for their participants. However, President, these programs are fraught with their own challenges. President, what measures do you suggest that we must put in place to ensure that these public employment programs are impactful and that they contribute significantly to the reduction of unemployment in this country? I thank you.
Singing for staff for this one.
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Murolo, thank you for your question. Yes, public employment programs do have their place, do have their own impact, and we have chosen to continue with public employment programs in a number of areas. What we have done now in opening up opportunities for almost 700,000 people in our country is actually quite unique, because what we have sought to do is to limit those challenges with public employment programs that you're talking about, that are done at the behest of, say, service providers, at the behest of facilitators. These ones are directly linked to existing institutions, albeit of government, that have been able, and some of them not even government, also going to existing institutions in the communities, but more directly aimed at addressing the challenges that we have. So we've had a twofold type of approach, and we have tested the system, and the system works extremely well. The majority of those who've been placed in job opportunities have been, yes, through public sector institutions, and others have been placed through community-based type of institutions, through agriculture and community work and early childhood development centers and so forth. And they have worked very well. And I can safely say that we have not even had a sniff of acts of malfeasance in the current initiative that has been put in place. So that has worked well. And in my book, we need to massify and increase those, exactly the point that you are making. But we also need to find space and ways to crowd the private sector in, or bring the private sector in. Private sector needs to participate, and they've been participating through the employment tax initiative that, as I said, has worked very well, particularly for young people. So if you like, we've test-driven a number of these initiatives, and they work. And all we now need to do is to scale them up. And it is this that in time to come, we will be looking at and coming up with further initiatives, as you ask for, to make sure that we address the challenge of unemployment. So the process is underway, Honorable Murolo, to take further and more impactful steps with regard to this. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition Party from the Chamber.
Mr. President, it's very clear from your answer in the House today that you've got absolutely no idea whatsoever on how to create employment, because you live in a billionaire's bubble disconnected from the real world. And let's be very clear, this is not a pandemic problem, it's a presidential and policy problem. Young people, Mr. President, don't want grants, they want jobs. And under your leadership, unemployment has gone up every year to the point now where 75% of young people in this country do not have work. Mr. President, why do you hate the young people of South Africa so much that you want to keep inflicting this misery on them? Don't you see your ANC unity project with the crooks and corrupt in your party is the problem? With this in mind, are you prepared today to apologize to the young South Africans that you and your party have shoved into the unemployment queue? And can you tell them today that you're going to walk away from the ANC's mad job-killing policies?
The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What I was speaking to earlier, in case Honourable Steenhuisen was not listening, is precisely aimed at addressing the challenge that we face as a nation of unemployment. The pandemic on its own resulted in the loss of 2 million jobs. It resulted in a negative growth of -7%. And we are not alone in this. Many other countries have been affected. And we've carried a historical burden of unemployment, of poverty, and inequality. We carry that on our shoulders. And that has emanated also from a number of years past. And it is this that we have said through the various interventions that we are determined to address, and to address fully. For this government to have embarked on a job opportunity offering to mainly young people, absorbing up to 700,000 in a matter of less than 10 months, if you like, a year, it's quite phenomenal. And it needs to be recognized for the impact that it has had and is having on the lives of ordinary young people. And of course, we need to massify it. We need to expand it. What I take heart on this from is that we're on the right path. Addressing the issue of unemployment in our country was never going to be a one-day event. We've got more than 500,000 young people, if not more, 750,000 maybe, who keep on adding up to the ranks of the unemployed in our country. Our economy has not been producing or creating jobs sufficiently to be able to erode that. We are acutely aware of this. And we are not afraid to confront the reality of the situation that faces us. We are up to it. The reforms that we have embarked upon and further reforms that are going to ensue are aimed at precisely ensuring that we create a broad spectrum of job opportunities for the young people of our country, support businesses to be able to create jobs, and erode what has not worked well in the past. I'm committed, I'm convinced that we will succeed. My cabinet members also committed to this. Policies that we have are the types of policies that are aimed to doing that. And where our policies have needed to be straightened out, we are doing precisely that. And that is why our ERRP speaks to the reforms that we need to embark upon. And we also need to look at the trends that are unfolding globally. I don't have the time now to be able to do that, but we're looking at that, but we also need to look at our own. What is it that is happening in our own society? And how do we respond? We are up to responding in a positive way to address the challenges that our people face. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable C. Mutsepe through the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Speaker. The President, the truth of the matter is that there are no measures to speak of that government that has introduced to grow the economy or create jobs. Instead, we see government implementing austerities, cutting budgets, cutting jobs at SAA, DINEL, and other state-owned companies, and reducing services. We explained as early as 2016 that government spending is a major contribution to the economy, and the continued reduction in government spending is a direct reduction of the economy in a depressed economy. The consequences are job losses and continuing declines in the economy even without COVID-19. Besides privatization program that government is implementing and benefiting few individuals, mainly funders of CR17. What has government achieved by intensifying budget
your time is
besides
up before you
allocation of budget? I thank you.
The Honorable Mr. President, I'm not sure if you did hear the question.
No, I did not hear the question, Honorable Speaker. I just heard a tirade.
Can I pose the question again? It's direct to the question.
No, Honorable Member, you had an opportunity to raise your question and you decided to comment. I'm really sorry. I now proceed.
Madam Speaker, I posed the question. I did. I've said what has government achieved by intensifying budget cuts besides some reallocation of budget? Thank you.
I've allowed that and you will not repeat again. I had already stopped you from speaking after giving you 5 more seconds. You will not do it again. I'm sorry, Honorable Member. Mr. President, are you in a position to answer that question?
Yes, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would say that the Honorable Mutsepe says that we have allowed entities like SAA, DINEL, to shed employment and not funded them. Honorable Speaker, that is far from the truth. This government has over a number of years funded SAA. It's always underwritten also DINEL and a number of our state-owned enterprises. We know very well that yes, government spending is a major element of ensuring that there should be proper stabilization of our various state-owned enterprises as well as our economy. This government has done precisely that. We've sought even to save SAA from collapse and have spent considerable amounts of money. Even now, she complains about austerity measures. And I think those who do speak about this need to look at the balance sheet. Because quite often, those who speak about these types of matters are completely oblivious of what the balance sheet of the state is all about. On the one side, there are liabilities, and on the other side, there are assets. Balancing the balance sheet requires quite a lot of doing. And on the liability side, there is the debt burden, already the debt burden that we have, particularly in servicing the debt. And it goes beyond that. It is about servicing the interest. Just to service the interest is almost getting to more than the budget of education and health alone. And when you look at the redemptions, the debt that we now have to pay off completely, that adds to that burden. And it therefore requires that we should look on the income statement side and see what revenue sources do we have. Are they increasing or are they diminishing? Because the increase of our revenue side of our financial statement is what every one of us wants to see. Because with more revenue coming in, we're then able to support all programs. Make sure that all the programs that we have are well supported, we achieve everything that the nation desires. And when that revenue stream shrinks, it spells danger. It then requires us to go and borrow even more. And there's no cheap money. As we borrow, we increase the level of servicing the debt. And it begins to go beyond what you are even spending on education and health. And that is the balance that many people are completely oblivious to. So I say to the honorable member, as you reflect on these issues, and I'm glad that you are speaking to them, which means that we are getting closer and closer to a better understanding of how the finances of the nation work. Let us get closer to the real issues. But in doing so, let us not only look at the expenditure side, let us also look at the income side and say, are we getting enough financial resources to be able to support everything else? And if we are, and then obviously everybody is happy. So the Minister of Finance has to juggle a number of balls in the air. The needs and requirements are often way above what we have as resources. And that is what leads to prioritization. What is of greater priority? Now, everyone in our nation wants the issues that matter most to them to be key priorities. And that is where the challenge comes in. It is an interesting discussion that should go on in the nation, because it will be better if, as South Africans, we are more and more aware of the finances of the nation, so that we can also know what limitations we have and what we are able to do. And we can also be aware of the choices we have to make to advance our collective interests. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable V. Zungula through the virtual platform.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. President, we know that your presidency has coincided with an increase in unemployment. When you took office, the unemployment was under 30%. Currently, it is way above 30%. We note that even our country is at risk of social unrest due to the ever-increasing unemployment, especially amongst young people. Even in July, the events that occurred in July were as a result of that unemployment. So my question to you is, out of the 200 billion rands guarantee scheme with the banks, how much has been spent on black businesses and how much has been spent on small businesses, and what is the percentage spent in small black businesses in particular?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Zungula, in a funny sort of way, I thank you for raising the question on how the 200 billion rand that we announced as the loan guarantee scheme has performed. The unemployment has risen. Yes, it is now at 34.4%. And if you look at the expanded unemployment, it's way beyond that, 43 or 44%. So we face a massive problem. And I look at this as a collective problem that we all solve. And of course, in the end, it will be said to be President Cyril Ramaphosa's problem. Yes, as it should be. It is a big problem. And as I was saying earlier, Honorable Zungula, this is precisely what is on my continued radar screen. If there's anything that consumes my attention on a minute-by-minute basis, hourly basis, it is this issue of unemployment, particularly for young people. And it is to this end that we came up with the presidential youth employment scheme that has started to work very well. But of course, the burden is huge. At the current moment, even that will not immediately be able to absorb every young person who works. But for those who have been brought into the scheme, Honorable Zungula, they find that this is what is changing their lives. And changing young people's lives is what we are about. Giving them hope, giving them skills, giving them jobs, and giving them a future. This is what we are committed to doing. And we will do that. And we want to do that in even a bigger and dramatic way going forward. Now, coming to the 200 billion, you will recall that we said when we announced our stimulus package that we're setting aside 500 billion, which was exactly just slightly over 10% of our GDP. That in itself is a massive amount of money. And when we look at our peer countries in the world, we've done much more than many of our peer countries have done, and actually have done almost equal, if not slightly better, than some of your more developed economy countries. And in that regard, we demonstrated that we are willing and determined to address the challenges that our people and our economy was facing. And it is for that reason that we came up with the loan guarantee scheme and announced a 200 billion amount which the government was prepared to underwrite and guarantee for a period that goes beyond 5 years and more, even up to 9 or 10 years. Now, the banks were the agents that are meant to execute this. And I have said, even on this platform, that I've not been happy and satisfied with the way the financial institutions in our country have been involved in executing this. They themselves say, well, there was very little uptake, and the uptake seemingly only amounted to about 20 billion. And I'm not satisfied with that answer. And I've said to them, let's recreate this. Let's make it much more user-friendly. And work is now underway to look at how best to make it more user-friendly. I will not at the moment be able to tell you how many black businesses have been assisted. I have not delved into that and probed into that. All I know is that many black businesses need a lot of support, because one of the things that they lack in is a historical malady that black people have. We don't have collateral, because some of the requirements of these types of funding require collateral, and many black people don't have collateral, so we therefore have to answer that. We have to come with creative answers to address the issue of lack of collateral, because where will black people get collateral? Many black people's parents and their own origins were denuded deliberately by the laws of the past of building up wealth. So many black people have not built up that residual wealth that would lend itself to being the collateral that people can put on the table to be able to get funding. And if we work on the basis that, you know, nearly all businesses, whether it is the biggest corporation or not, they all need funding. They all need bank funding, financial services funding. I hardly know of many businesses where, you know, shareholders themselves have to put in a lot of money. It's always borrowed money. And this is what we were trying to enable, that the borrowed money, yes, we were prepared to take the risk as government, but we will underwrite and give a guarantee to this. So the uptake has been really poor, and I agree with you, it has been poor. So I have said that I'd like to see the scheme being recast, recalibrated. I've said as much, and I've expressed my dissatisfaction also to the financial services sector about this, because we saw this as an important intervention on our side. And we need, therefore, to have a measure of relaxation, particularly because government has said it is willing and prepared to guarantee and underwrite this. I am hoping, Honorable Member, that Zungula, that we will see some progress in this. And as regards of the other measures, employment for young people, we are working on this. Believe you me, this is being worked on, as we are working hard to reposition our economy. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable President. That brings us to the end of question 10 on the order paper. We now proceed with question number 11, which was asked by the Honorable A.M. Sheikh Imam. Honorable Sheikh Imam is on the virtual platform.
Speaker, honorable members, I'd like to say that it is not correct to say that compensation has not been paid to the families of those workers who died at Marikana. According to the records of the Office of the State Attorney, claims totaling more than 174.4 million have been paid to the families of those who died and to workers who were injured or detained. This includes the payment of loss of support claims to the families of 36 people who died, the payment of 253 claims for unlawful arrest and detention, and also claims for severe injury. There are still several claims that are not yet resolved and are still subject to negotiation and the exploration of possible offers of settlement. So work is currently being done to all this. This includes further claims from 36 families for general and constitutional damages. There is currently no agreement between the parties regarding those claims, as an amount of almost 70 million has already been paid to these families in full and final settlement. The state, however, has made quite a number of payments, and there are further demands that are made, and these are being processed as we speak. While these ongoing engagements between the representatives of the various families and the state are underway, these claims have not yet been resolved and they are still being dealt with. So quite a lot of work continues in this regard, and there are further 22 claims for unlawful arrest and detention, 13 claims for injuries and malicious prosecution, and 40 claims for injuries that have not yet been settled, either due to incomplete expert reports, outstanding records, or disputed claims. Now, the state is committed, I must say, the state is committed to settling all these claims. Where an amicable negotiated settlement cannot be reached, these matters obviously will need to be adjudicated by a court. Now, Madam Speaker, the lack of progress in the prosecution of those responsible for the deaths of all those killed is indeed a cause of concern and distress. I'm informed that the prosecution team is in ongoing meetings with the IPID investigators as part of the prosecution-led investigation that gives effect to the Farlam Commission recommendation to the National Prosecuting Authority. I'm further informed that the National Director of Public Prosecutions has recently directed that the Acting Director of Public Prosecutions for the Northwest, Mahikeng, must provide a clear plan of action regarding the IPID investigations of the events where 34 workers were shot and killed. This is specifically intended to speed up and finalize the outstanding investigations so as to enable the NPA to decide on possible prosecutions emanating from the available evidence. Now, in exercising its responsibility to Parliament, it is important that the NPA should, on a regular basis, provide members of this House with updates on progress in this regard. It is important that this should be done because this matter is a matter of huge public interest. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable A.M. Sheikh Imam through the virtual platform.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, allow me at the very outset to advise you the next time you come on the platform, you evacuate everybody from your house so there's no shadows there. Now, Mr. President, thank you very much for your response, and I must acknowledge indeed payments have been made. But you must agree, Mr. President, it is 9 years later. Lots of politicking and grandstanding appears to be done in this country at the expense of those that have lost their life. My plea to you, Mr. President, and question is, when are you able to go and address the families of these 34 deceased so that these families can have closure? And secondly, Mr. President, what can you do to intervene to try and accelerate this process of making sure compensation is paid to these people? And I do know that, and I acknowledge that you're saying the process sometimes makes it difficult, but it also appears that not much is being done, and I'm glad that you have clarified But what additional measures can be put in place, Mr. President, to bring this matter to a closure so that there's no politicking and grandstanding and we bring closure once and for all to these families? Thank you, Mr. President.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Imam. Let me start off by saying I don't know what shadows you see, because the only shadow I see is my own shadow. As I move, that's the shadow I see. And maybe through your spectacles, you are seeing other shadows. I have appeared in Parliament in person, as you well know, and would have preferred to have done so even now, but the conditions with regard to matters that I'm dealing with have not allowed me, and they have not also allowed my parliamentary councillor, Dr. Korenhoff, to be in the House as he has always done so. And he's not being truant. He is totally committed to our Parliament and does a lot of work to support me. And I can assure you he's not with me right now. So you can be rest assured that there are no other shadows. But if you see other shadows, I can assist that maybe your glasses do need to be looked at. Maybe you are seeing other figures. But more seriously, in relation to your question, it has always been my intention to go and to speak to the widows of the deceased workers. And to this end, yes, because this is a complex matter, which has various complex aspects to it. We've been in consultation with a variety of parties, initially with the union itself, AMCU, and also with the NUM, and at times the two don't see eye to eye. They differ on approaches, and at times I find that one is caught up between the two because they are the two key role players. And I've been ably counseled, supported by a number of faith leaders who have come to the fore, and a number of other role players in society. And I don't want to keep on playing the same record over and over and over again. And all I want to say, it will happen. And obviously everyone will say, when is it going to happen? And I, Honorable Imam, am actively navigating the various different role players' approaches to this matter, because there are various approaches here. And I have been engaged with this process. Because yes, it's important that we should deal with this matter and bring closure to it, and also ensure that we work beyond also to deal with what the Farnham Commission also concluded, and what needs to be done in relation to the reforms that should ensue, and also the prosecutions and all of that. And that is why, possibly maybe for the first time, I've outlined precisely the various issues that are under play. Like you, I am not very satisfied with the long period it takes to also deal with the issue of compensation, because it's taking a long time. And I would have wanted it to speed up, and would also insist that those who are involved in finalizing it, let us not spend too much time quibbling over a rand here, a cent there, and so forth. We need to make good by the people who lost their loved ones. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S. Luzipo from the Chamber. The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, indeed it is without doubt that this is one of the most complex, emotive, and sensitive issues, but also quite regrettable, one of the quite regrettable incidents of our democratic dispensation. In light of all the challenges and the fact that next year will mark the 10th anniversary of the said Marikana events, does or will government consider some commemorative events beyond socio-economic restitution so as to contribute towards unity, especially that of workers and all those who are affected directly or indirectly by such tragic event? Thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, I know we see shadows. It's Friday today.
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, indeed, it is Friday today. Honorable Speaker, a number of proposals are being made on how to commemorate this very sad event, and they range from installing a huge statue, which will be a memorial to those who passed away, to declaring a public holiday, to saying that Workers' Day, which is the 1st of May, should now be done away with, and the real Workers' Day should be the day on which the 44 workers died. So it's a myriad of proposals that needs to be worked through, and they are very complex, they are very emotional, and they need to be approached with a great deal of sensitivity. So these are the issues that are at play, that are being looked at on an ongoing basis. So they are not easy, there are so many, and they are very complex. But I live in the hope that answers will be found even just beyond the socio-economic issues. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition Party from the Chamber.
Mr. President, the 2015 report of the Farlam Commission of Inquiry into the Marikana massacre made a number of recommendations about how public order policing could be improved. Now, if the recommendations of the Farlam Commission report made in 2015 had been followed, we would have been able to avoid the disaster that we saw with the SABC's attempts in KwaZulu-Natal. Similarly, if the 2018 reports of the Mufamadi Commission into state security had been implemented, your government may have been able to prevent this terrible violence and loss of life and livelihoods altogether. Mr. President, I'd like to ask you and your team there, why have the 2015 and 2018 Mufamadi reports been ignored for so long? And do you intend to give the Zondo Commission report the same dastardly and concomitant treatment? Thank you.
The Honorable, the President.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. The answer to the question posed is that the Farlam Commission recommendations are being processed, and they are also going to be part of the examination that is now underway by the expert team that I appointed, because a number of things that were not properly done in the recent period matters, not all of them are matters which the Farlam Commission had reflected on. And similarly, some of the matters that the high-level panel had reflected on, which was led by Dr. Mufamadi, are also part of that. The time that it takes in government to get things done, it's a matter of great concern to me as well. And therefore, we need to speed up on things that need to be done, urgency, and if we do that, we'll be able to prevent further mishaps that could be done. I'm not able to comment on the Zondo Commission report because we have no report at the moment unless the leader of the opposition has a copy of the report. And if he does, I'll be very delighted if you could share it with me. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S. Mukhoto through the virtual platform. Honorable Mukhoto.
Let me take the question on behalf of Honorable Mukhoto, Speaker. President, the Marikana massacre is synonymous to you, President. Your email calling for the police to take concomitant action against workers resulted in the death of 34 miners. You implicitly acknowledged this when you spoke at the funeral of Mamwini Madikizela Mandela and promised to visit Marikana and engage the Marikana victims and somehow ask for their forgiveness. Why have you not engaged with the survivors of the massacre to date? And what steps have you taken to ensure that all those who must get compensation do actually get what is due to them? Thank you very much.
The Honorable, the President.
Honorable Speaker, I do believe that I did answer all the questions, the supplementary questions that the Honorable Member had raised. From the initial response to Honorable Imam's question, if the Honorable Member listened carefully, he will find that all the questions that he now poses on a supplementary basis were actually addressed. And just to repeat, the issue of compensation is a matter that has been done in part, and it is still to be fully completed. I've also explained how the issue of even going there is complex because it has to be done in conjunction and in full collaboration with various role players, which is a matter that in a way has stood in the way of even going there, but it is a matter that I'm attending to together with a whole host of a number of role players. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. That brings us to the end of question 11. Now we proceed to the last question, which was asked by the Honorable D.R. Direko. Honorable Direko is in the chamber.
Honorable Madam Speaker, honorable members, the report of the Auditor General on the state of local government finances in many ways underlines the extent and the depth of the challenges facing the sphere of government that is closest to the lives of South Africans. Addressing these challenges must necessarily involve all spheres of government, as well as communities and social partners. For its part, national government has a range of support packages that address issues of governance, financial management, institutional matters, and service delivery at local government level. The Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, recently tabled a report on the state of local government to Cabinet, which report used audit outcomes as one of the criteria to assess municipalities. The report identified 64 municipalities that have challenges across a number of key performance areas of governance, financial management, service delivery, corporate governance, and leadership. The Department of Cooperative Governance and National Treasury are working with their provincial counterparts and municipalities to finalize municipality-specific support plans to address deficiencies identified in the State of Local Government report. There are, in addition, several programs to give effect to the Auditor General's recommendations. Now, these include support to municipalities in the development and implementation of audit action plans, effective implementation of the Municipal Finance Management Act, and improved revenue collection and management. Intergovernmental debt forums have been established to facilitate solutions to the significant amount of debt that is owed to municipalities, but also debt that is owed to ESCOM, to the water boards, and other water entities. Now, to address financial challenges, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs collaborates with provincial counterparts and treasuries to support municipalities with the development and implementation of the financial recovery plans. The department is coordinating the amendment of the Municipal Structures Act to strengthen the functioning of municipal public accounts committees, which are entrusted to investigate and to authorize irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. Now, the Municipal System Improvement Grant, Honorable Speaker, helps municipalities to strengthen institutional and governance systems, such as data and tariff management, policies and bylaws, records management, and ICT infrastructure. The Financial Management Improvement Program provides technical support and places experts in selected provinces and municipalities focusing on issues such as asset management, budgets, revenue management, supply chain management, and audit outcomes. Now, through these and other efforts, all spheres of government are working to turn around the dire situation in many of our municipalities. A lot of concerted work is going into this because clearly this has proven to be one of the major challenges that we face, particularly as regards dealing with the capacity of the state. As a country, we need to prioritize the local government sphere so that it may ultimately be able to stand on its own and meet the needs and serve the interests of the people of our country. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable D.R. Direko.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, it gives us hope to know that our government is serious about providing quality services to our people and also ensuring that it turn around local government. However, Honorable President, there are some of the municipalities, including the 64 municipalities, which are classified as the hotspot municipalities. And these municipalities are the repeat offenders in terms of disregarding the law. So, Honorable President, I would like to know if is there any relevant consequence management plan in place so that we can be able to deal with these municipalities who fails to implement the government turnaround strategy and also the recommendations of Auditor General. Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, yes, Honorable Direko, there are processes that are underway also to deal with what you call the repeat offender municipalities. Indeed, there are quite a number of what you would call hotspot municipalities that continue to transgress the various processes on all these matters that I've spoken about: financial management, asset management, proper revenue collection, and even corporate governance and leadership. Because that is what really, if you like, bedevils the operations of these municipalities. And we are now, through the various interventions, including the amendments that we seek or want to propose of the Municipal Structures Act, will hope to get to grips. I think a light and a torch is now being shown on our municipalities. And I think we've come to a stage where municipalities that are continuing to show real bad performance will have no place to hide, including the personnel that are deployed there, from mayor, municipal manager, even procurement officers. They will have no place to hide. They will have to live up to good performances or ship out. And I think we've now reached that stage. The people of our country are tired of municipalities performing badly and underperforming and not providing good service to our people. And they now want good service delivery. They want municipalities that are going to be committed to serving their interests. And so crunch time has come. And I believe that anyone who is deployed in that space needs to know that a light is being shown on them and their performance and their various activities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition from the chamber.
Mr. President, the only light for many municipalities is the fact that they have dodged the ANC because your party failed to submit candidates in 94 municipalities. How lucky they are. What a complete blessing for them. And this must say, Mr. President, I want to congratulate you on this, because this is the best back to basics plan for local government that you could ever have come up with. I've just spent the last week in the Northwest province visiting towns, and I've seen for myself the terrible effects of cadre deployment on municipalities. Local government in the Northwest has collapsed completely. The Northwest is ground zero for cadre deployment. Clover's employees are the latest victims of cadre deployment, as the businesses had to leave the town because they couldn't operate without basic services anymore. Mr. President, you've heard 3 years of testimony of how devastatingly damaging the policy, your policy, of cadre deployment has been in local government and in other spheres of government. Our question to you and your team there at the union buildings is therefore this. Why did you beg Judge Zondo to keep this terrible policy in place, knowing the damage it has done in South Africa?
The Honourable, the President.
Honourable Speaker, thank you. I see that Honourable Steenhuisen has completely monopolized asking questions from the DA just to himself, meaning that most of the members in the DA are either being bludgeoned to submission, that they should never ask any question, and that the Supreme Leader should be the only one who asks questions. That casts a very sad image of a party of opposition. Quite sad. I would have really, truly appreciated and enjoyed getting questions from a number of other DA leaders, because that is how we sharpen leadership, from all sorts of people in our parliamentary benches, rather than just to have one person monopolizing. How sad, how really, truly sad. But having said that...
Point of order.
Point of order has been raised, Mr. President. Point of order has been raised.
Madam Speaker, yes. I would have thought that the President would have been aware of parliamentary tradition from parliaments the world over.
That's
that when it's Prime Minister's questions,
order.
It's the Leader of the Opposition that answers.
That is not a point of order. Take your seat, Honourable Member. Honourable President.
Madam Speaker, the problem is that we are not any other country. We are South Africa, and we have our own unique way of doing things, and we don't tend to mimic what is done elsewhere. This problem of mimicking, of wanting to mimic what is done elsewhere, including the shriek voice through which Honourable Steenhuisen raises his question. And I would that he should also go for voice training so that he's able to, when he asks questions,
order, Madam Speaker.
Ask questions in a way that induces good answers. But having said that, Honourable Speaker...
There's a point of order, Mr. President. Please. Yes, point of order.
Madam Speaker, I think it is very unparliamentary from the President to make mention of the voice of the Leader of the Opposition and a member. I think he must say that, excuse himself in that.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Mr. President, you may proceed.
Honourable Speaker, it is not up to me to direct what the Honourable Acting Chief Justice will do in relation to the report that he is going to issue. I, like everyone else, looks forward to the report that he will give. And those who went before the commission should be applauded for having gone there to speak freely and openly and express their views. And similarly, I also took the time to express my own thoughts and did so by also reflecting on international practice that happens elsewhere, but tailor-made it to what we should be doing here in South Africa. So he wants to know, why did I beg the Acting Chief Justice in that regard? My answer is, I did not beg the Acting Chief Justice. I put forward a point of view, and it could well be it's a point of view, as I think he has stated, that he does not agree with. And of course, it would be terrible to live in a country where all of us agree on everything. The diversity that we have embraced is that there will be different points of view, and that is what enriches our democracy. That is what enriches everything that we do in our country, that we should have different views on various things that are done, and also different views on even people who are placed in certain places of leadership. That is what democracy is all about. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Sorry, Madam Speaker.
The third, yes.
Madam Speaker, I just want to address you. Speaker, if we are going to have a situation where the President and members of this House can reflect on one another in either the way that they look or the way that they speak, it's a very slippery slope and it's going to end badly. So I really think that you should rule on what the President reflected on the Honourable Leader of the Opposition in terms of how he addresses the President, and make a ruling on that, because it is definitely not parliamentary and it leads to a very slippery slope. So I'd ask you to reflect on that and to come back to the House, because it is not becoming of a member of this House. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Just to say that in terms of my understanding, what I've seen, this is not one of the, in the do's and don'ts, this is not one of the issues which has been raised. However, I will look into this matter and come back to the House. Thank you. The third supplementary question. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable A. Buthelezi through the virtual platform.
Madam Speaker.
All right. I now recognize Ms. Lengwa, who is in the chamber, representing Honorable A. Buthelezi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable President, may the President please elaborate on which of these strategies has been implemented in the past to no avail? What will be done differently this time that will guarantee change? I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, I mentioned quite a number of initiatives that I believe will lead to greater change so as to reposition our local government entities in a much better position. I mean, for starters, we've had to give deep consideration to the Auditor General's report. The Auditor General authoritatively has come up with a damning report on our local government, particularly with regard to the management of the financial resources of our local government. But she's also gone beyond that and looked at issues that impact on the leadership at local government level, and also looked at the issues of governance and issues of service delivery. Now, the initiatives that we want to embark upon, working through all these issues through the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, collaborating with various other provincial counterparts, that is at government level, are the types of issues that are in the end going to stand us in good stead. Because through these various efforts, we want to look at issues of real good financial management. But beyond that, look at the human capital side of things, at the people who are deployed to manage the finances of our local government. How those people who are deployed also look at the management of the assets of local government and how the budgets are crafted, and the revenue management as well, and supply chain. So all these matters, I believe, are going to be looked at. And it's in a way, I'm giving credit to Honorable Steenhuisen in his observation that this is going back to basics. He's absolutely right, because if we can achieve this back to basic process at local government level, the achievements will be really phenomenal. And this is where we would like to see real change. And if I may say, this is where Honorable Steenhuisen, I also applaud you for having gone to look at a number of municipalities. I applaud you for that, because it's not only the governing party that has a monopoly or should have the monopoly on the right things that should be done. So on that score, I would say your observation is right, that we should go back to basics. My take is we are determined to turn around many of our local governments, and it's also going to revolve on the various issues that I mentioned. But the human capital side of things is precisely what we will need to focus on. And as the local government elections process is concluded, we look forward to ensuring that the people who are placed in the key positions of running our local government are the type of people who will be able to address the needs of our people through service delivery, good governance, and making sure that the financial assets and resources of our local government areas are also promoted. And also to ensure that local government area becomes the area where the investment process is enhanced, is nurtured, because investments do not take place at the union buildings. Investments in our country take place at the local government area, and it behoves, therefore, on local government to create that conducive environment for investors to invest in. Yes, we should be said that some investors have been so dissatisfied with the offerings and the services that they've been receiving in some of our local governments, and have opted to leave to go to other environments. That is something that we should not ever see happening again, because investors choose certain areas in our country for the offerings, the benefits that they can extract. So therefore, local government players, if I can call them that, have a responsibility to ensure that they promote investments at the lowest level and attract investors. And the only way to attract investors is to create that very good and conducive climate at the low level with regard to how services are provided, how the incentives that they may have to offer are actually regulated, and the governance, when they look at a town, a city, a metro, they should feel attracted to it. And that is a challenge that we are all going to have to face at local government level, because it is when we can do that that we will be able to enhance investment more generally in our country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable I.M. Groenewald through the virtual platform.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable President, non-compliance with legislation, as highlighted in Auditor General's report, is of great concern. South Africa has a rule of law that when one thing is done irregular, all actions that follow is irregular. Thus, small non-compliance has great consequences. 108 municipalities that have unfunded budgets do not comply with the MFMA. If tested in court and the court finds it to be irregular, these municipalities will deal with consequences such as illegally levied rates and taxes, which will have to be paid back to thousands of consumers. 108 councils will be dissolved with 108 governments that will cease to exist. Although attention was drawn to the non-compliance, no action has been taken to prevent non-compliance, but rather only crisis management. Will you, as the president of the ANC, take internal action against ANC councillors and mayors who will allow this non-compliance? Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable the President.
The problem of non-compliance, and particularly having councils that have unfunded budgets and embark on various projects and programs, is a problem that impacts and affects a number of municipalities in our country. And you've cited 108, it could well be even more than that. This is a common problem. Another attendant problem to this is that many of our municipalities embark on unfunded projects, or budgets rather, because they are operating in an environment where they have no revenue collection base and only depend largely, not completely, largely, on the equitable grants that they should get. And this is a problem that affects many of them. Some of them are affected by this from a structural point of view. If you look at our municipal architecture broadly, generally, there needs to be a review because some municipalities were put in place, but they're unviable. From beginning to end, they should have been deemed to be unviable because a municipality should not only rely on grants or equitable grants that come from the center. They should be able, through the architecture of our constitution, to be able to raise revenue at their own level. So a number of municipalities are not able to do so, but there's another social problem. The other social problem is that many of our people in various towns are poor, they are indigents, they have no inherent income themselves, and some of them are old, single-headed families, they rely on grants. And when it comes to services, much as the state assists by offering a measure of electricity and water, they still can't make ends meet. So the specter of poverty touches many households who are therefore not able to be a source of revenue for a number of municipalities. That then results in those municipalities going into the unfunded budget territory and becoming unviable. They are not able to collect rates and taxes, and they just descend into the hole of unviability. We do need to have a review of our municipal architecture, and it is something that I believe needs to be done possibly post the municipal elections we're going to hold, because many municipalities in our country will never really make it other than receiving the grants that they get from the state. So collectively, we need to look at that. But having said that, it is actually quite wrong for municipalities or councils to operate on unfunded budget basis. And you find that in some cases, they front load the payment of salaries. And some of them have salary wage bills that go to even more than 25 to 30% of their revenue. And once you get into that territory, it basically means that you're bankrupt. And they cannot therefore sustain. And this happens with the, yes, hiring of more people than can be supported by the revenue, even if that revenue includes the equitable share of the grant. So these are some of the challenges that we need to look at and find solutions for. But in agreeing with you, we should be saying municipalities should take heed not to embark on unfunded projects. And I know it's a great temptation, particularly when you have other huge direct costs that you've got to pay for, or expenditure items like salaries and so on. And then it begins to crowd out the essential ones, which is service delivery, the maintenance of our assets, and the development that needs to take place at the infrastructure level. And so therefore, in this new era of municipal government, we now need to be focusing on all that. And this is the area where the Department of Cooperative Governance is going to be focusing more on. And indeed, Treasury is also going to be focusing on that. And I have said, yes, even from the union buildings, this is an area I'd like us to look at more closely, either through monitoring and evaluation, so that we look at how the municipalities are performing and see the extent to which we can take proactive action. And the good thing is that we've empowered the Auditor General to be able to have line of sight of this before things get completely out of control. And so this time around, we want to empower local government. We want to ensure that, yes, we go back to those basics that even Honorable Steenhuisen has spoken about. I guess as I conclude, my remarks on the way that Honorable Steenhuisen was coming across were by no means meant to be an aspersion on his person, and to the extent that it has touched a very sensitive chord, I would say, yes, I would withdraw those remarks so that they don't even become an issue here in Parliament. And Honorable Steenhuisen, as the leader of the opposition, as he is entitled to, is in the habit of taking barbs against the party that I lead on an ongoing basis. He comes across throwing assegais and arrows and all that, and it is part of the banter in Parliament, but to the extent that my remark about the way he comes across has been hurtful to him, I do withdraw that, and I hope that we will still be able, as I'm sorry I'm not a member of Parliament, to be able to be sitting across him all the time. We'll still be able to have wonderful exchanges. But with that, Madam Speaker, thank you very much. I move out of here hugely enriched. Thank you very much.
Speaker, point of order.
There's a point of order. What is the point of order?
Speaker, the President didn't ask or answer my question. Can I repeat the question, maybe if you didn't miss it?
No. We are done now. Honorable members, that concludes questions to the President. I thank the Honorable President. That concludes the business for the day, and the House is adjourned.
Long live the President!